My older sister determined that I needed to learn how to be a mother after I turned 18, with the excuse that I should be thankful for the experience. She began to dump her child on me. I thus gave her a lesson. Ava is my name. Last month, I celebrated my 18th birthday and graduated from high school 2 weeks later and prepared for what was to be the most thrilling summer of my life. Full college, assigned dorm room, orientation packet in hand. Really, I had plans. Spending time at the beach with friends, helping at the animal shelter, working part-time at a nearby coffee shop to save some cash, and sleeping late for the first time in a long time. Normal stuff, you know. A taste of freedom before the full force of adulthood. However, it seems it was my sister Megan's signal to begin using me as her own live-in nanny. Megan is 27 years old. At the age of 23, she gave birth to her daughter Harper. The man never appeared in the photo. After the ultrasound kind, he dumped one of those, and Megan left college to return to our parents' house. I recall how everything changed the moment Harper entered the family when I was 14 years old. The weight of the air increased. Megan changed completely as a result of the routine being messier, theatrical, demanding, always worn out, and always acting as though she owed the world something for raising a child, a task that millions of women perform every day. Megan and I never close. She viewed me as the obnoxious tag-along little sister, the one who didn't understand and had to be kept out of the way. Even before Harper, we never attended the same school, had friends that overlapped, or connected over the same interests because of our age difference. I grew up feeling as though I had to earn a place in my own home by avoiding her moods and outbursts. It was like walking on glass every day when she returned. Nevertheless, I discovered how to remain focused, keep my head down, and bide my time until I graduated. After that, I became 18. It began quietly. Megan would say things like, "You're an adult. Now, it's time to learn responsibility," or "You'll need this kind of experience when you have your own kids someday." I would laugh it off, thinking she was kidding, but I soon realized she wasn't kidding at all. The first time it happened, she asked if I could watch Harper for a short while she ran to the store, but I assumed it would only be for 30 minutes, at most, and Megan didn't return for 5 hours. She simply walked in with a new manicure and bags from the shopping and said, "Thanks," without offering an explanation or an apology. That was really helpful. After that, things got out of hand. She began organizing her entire social life around the idea that I would be home and available to watch Harper. I had to remind her that I had other plans every time I said no, but Megan had a new tactic. She began telling our mom that I had agreed to watch Harper, and then she would simply leave. I would come out of my room thinking I had the house to myself, only to find Harper sitting at the kitchen table with her little backpack and juice box, like she was dropped off at daycare. The worst part was that our mom didn't question it. When I tried to confront Megan about it, I told her that this wasn't okay, and that I wasn't her backup parent. But she would just smile and say things like, "You're not doing anything important anyway," or "It's not like you're working full-time." She even praised me for stepping up without realizing that I was being manipulated. I started locking my bedroom door, and Megan started leaving Harper outside of it. In any case, I said, I wasn't available. Megan said I needed to learn what real responsibility looks like. I skipped shifts at the shelter and cancelled outings with my friends because I didn't want to leave Harper alone. It felt like she saw my free time as something she could claim rather than something I had earned. Harper was a sweet, funny, intelligent little girl, but she wasn't my child, and I hadn't agreed to be her caretaker, so I couldn't even blame her. One night, Megan had the gall to say, "I'm just giving you real-life experience." I stopped enjoying my own summer because every time I thought I had time to myself, I'd get a knock on the door or a crying toddler asking for snacks. You'll be thankful when you're a mother one day. Megan had no intention of respecting my boundaries. To her, I was the convenient, unpaid help she felt she was entitled to. Therefore, I decided that if she wanted me to learn responsibility, I would teach her a lesson in consequences. She was generously giving me babysitting, as if it were a sacred rite of passage, as if I were privileged to sacrifice my time for her choices. After weeks of being treated like a free on-call babysitter because I had the audacity to turn 18 and graduate from high school, I decided it was time for Megan to get a taste of her own medicine. If she felt that I needed a crash course in real life responsibility, I was happy to give it to her, but not for me. Here's how it all went. That Thursday, Megan casually mentioned that she was considering scheduling a spa day with her friend Dana, and she subtly hinted that it would be fantastic if someone could watch Harper for the entire day. I told her, sounding as happy as I could muster, that I would be happy to take Harper on a fun Saturday adventure. Megan looked completely thrilled, pulling out her phone and scheduling her full day of pampering like she had won the lottery. Her eyes lit up with joy, and I could see the relief that once again someone was doing what I wanted. I picked Harper up with a big smile on my face at precisely 9 a.m. on Saturday. I packed snacks, a change of clothes, and wipes because I knew that this would be a crazy day. I didn't want to neglect Harper. This wasn't about punishing her, she's a helpless child, but rather about overwhelming Megan with the kind of overstimulating chaos that she constantly threw on me without warning or respect. I had the perfect plan. Our first stop was one of those noisy, chaotic indoor jungle gyms that smell like cotton candy and disinfectant. Think padded floors, inflatable bounce castles, screaming kids, arcade machines, plastic slides, tunnels, birthday clowns, and loud music. The kind of place where even the staff members appear to be struggling to stay sane. We spent 3 hours there, and Harper did everything. She climbed, crawled, jumped, danced, had her face painted like a glittery pink unicorn, ate cotton candy the size of her head, and I let her drink orange soda. I clapped after each activity and even took pictures. She was having a great time, and I knew what was coming. The meltdown started at about hour 3, when the combination of sugar, overstimulation, and mild exhaustion kicked in with a vengeance. Harper rubbed her face and smeared the unicorn glitter paint into her eye, which triggered the first tears. Then she dropped her juice bottle and refused to drink water. Then she wanted her unicorn back, and then she got scared of a clown that had been there the entire time. Her face got blotchy, her hands got sticky, and she began to whine in that ear-piercing pitch kids use when their world is so unfair. I tried to calm her down as much as I could, gave her a wipe, and told her that we were going to see Mommy, which got her excited enough to get into the car and make sure the crash would hit exactly where I needed it to. You see, Megan works part-time at a very chic local boutique think minimalist layout. Soft ambient music, expensive sweaters folded just so, and a manager who thinks she's running a fashion house in Paris, the kind of place that can't handle a sticky, screaming child in an Elsa dress covered in glitter. I parked the car and walked Harper through the boutique doors. She was still whimpering and still covered in a faint shimmer of cotton candy crust and smeared paint. It was around 2:30 p.m., right in the middle of Megan's shift, and she recognized me right away. She was helping a customer when Harper tugged at my arm, crying now that she wanted her mommy. I said in a very loud and very cheerful tone, Harper wanted her mommy. We've had such a busy day. I thought she'd love to see you. I smiled sweetly, handed Harper off, unicorn backpack and all, sticky fingers, sniffles, and walked out before Megan could say a word. I didn't turn around, but I heard it. As soon as Harper saw her mother, the whining intensified. Her manager's disapproving tone cut through the ambient spa playlist at the boutique. Someone dropped a hanger. I can only imagine the scene. An hour later, I received a wall of texts from Megan. Furious, doesn't even begin to describe them. She accused me of sabotaging her job, embarrassing her, stressing Harper, and being utterly reckless and immature. Her use of caps lock was aggressive, and her emojis were violent. I read the entire thing while sipping iced tea with my feet up on the couch. And then I replied, "Hey, that's real-life experience. You're welcome." Megan didn't talk to me for a good week following the boutique ambush, glitter meltdown, sticky fingers, and everything else. I remained silent because I knew something else was coming. Megan was selfish, manipulative, and exhausting, but she wasn't the type to relinquish control that easily. A week later, she slithered back into my atmosphere, as if nothing had happened. She started off with subtle, offhand remarks like, "Harper's just been bouncing off the walls lately." She didn't send me any texts, make any sarcastic remarks, or even use any of her passive aggressiveness during dinner. "I hope he could play with someone entertaining." Or, "This afternoon, I'm really busy. If only there was a reliable person available. Hey, I don't suppose you'd mind hanging out with Harper while I run a few errands, she stated rather seriously. At one point, no, I informed her. Every time politely at first, then more directly, and finally, just affirm. Disinterested. It's not my issue. For several days, the hush returned. The note then appeared. Tuesday was a random day. After spending the morning out with friends, I returned home at approximately noon to discover a folded piece of paper pinned to the front door. Harper was inside watching a movie when Megan wrote, "Had an emergency dental appointment. Back in a few hours, regards." I went cold. I initially assumed this was a prank, but as I opened the door, Harper was sitting on the couch, enjoying a bowl of dry cereal and a juice box while loudly watching a cartoon. Just a sticky note, and an abandoned child, no parent in sight. No. Heads up, no text, no authorization. Something inside of me broke at this point. I didn't shout. I didn't explode. I didn't give Megan a call, since paperwork is the only thing stronger than rage. And I was going to expose Megan to the impersonal, cold, and legally terrifying force of adult repercussions. I simply sat down next to Harper, checked on her, gave her a better snack, and waited. I remained silent that night when Megan eventually arrived 5 hours later. I let her pass me by as if nothing had happened. I praised Harper's glittery crayon picture and gave her a quick kiss on the forehead. Without any remorse, I watched her vanish into her bedroom. After that, I started working. I typed up the invoice that looked the most professional. I even discovered a free web template that gave the impression that it was created by a licensed daycare center. It contained my company's contact details, line items, totals, and a logo. The words Invoice Childcare Services were printed at the top in large, bold type. The time, date, and breakdown were then displayed. 5 hours of unplanned childcare at a rate of $25 per hour. To be honest, given the lack of notice and the emotional harm, this is a pretty fair cost. $125 in total. I printed off a copy and used 2 pieces of Scotch tape to neatly stick it to her bedroom door. I also added, in smaller but still readable writing, payment due within 7 business days. Unpaid invoices will be referred to small claims court. I then sent her the digital copy via email. There was nothing but bureaucratic silence. No text, no explanation, no emoji. She detonated in just 20 minutes. The door swung open. As if I had just served her with divorce papers, she bounded down the corridor, brandishing the invoice. She called me a money-hungry brat who doesn't understand family, as well as spiteful, nasty, and uncaring. She sobbed. She shouted. She insisted that I remove the paper. She did what I had always anticipated her to do when I didn't answer. She rushed to our parents. She sobbed as she rushed into the kitchen, brandishing the paper, and claimed that I was threatening to take advantage of her precarious situation as a single mother and extort her. After a brief interval of waiting, I gently entered the room and put another copy of the invoice on the kitchen counter so that everyone could see it. I went into great length about how this was not an isolated incident, how Megan had manipulated me, lied to our mother, dumped Harper on me without warning, and used her child as a pawn to escape obligations she never asked me to share over the past 2 months. I informed them that I had my own life and my own goals, and I wasn't going to be guilt-tripped into sacrificing them because this was no longer a game. In fact, our parents supported me, much to Megan's dismay and my surprise. They informed her that I was not Harper's third parent, that she had been abusing me, that I had every right to set limits, and that Megan needed to start behaving like an adult and taking care of her own children. She seemed more stunned than I think I've ever seen her in her life. She anticipated assistance. She received criticism. She stopped cold after that day. No more guilt trips, no more fictitious emergencies, no more notes, and no more surprise attacks. She asked our mother directly whether she needed assistance. She made plans if she wanted to go out. She felt as though someone had flicked a switch in her brain, letting her know that she could no longer take advantage of her younger sister. Sometimes she would give me a glare. There was tension, to be sure, but she stopped abruptly dumping Harper on me. She wasn't finished, though. I began to notice a shift 2 weeks after the invoice episode. which was the catalyst for Megan to eventually stop surprising me with babysitting shifts. But not from our mother, Megan. It began with her abrupt pauses whenever I entered the kitchen. She seemed to be trying to read between the lines in ordinary talks by hovering over them. Her questions became strangely sharp, such as whether I was feeling well lately, or whether I had noticed Harper appeared aloof. She even inquired as to whether I wanted to discuss anything, or if I felt overburdened by family obligations. I was initially perplexed. Then I noticed her across the living room, observing me. She narrowed her eyes as if she was waiting for me to scream into a pillow or cry. Then I discovered the solution. She wasn't finished, Megan. She was only getting her bearings. It turns out she didn't physically drop Harper on me as part of her new strategy. It was dirtier and more subdued. She began giving our mother small clues, whispers, and worries. She accused her of being moody, theatrical, and resentful, of emotionally abandoning Harper, of acting cold toward her, and of initiating arguments, all the time just to get attention. According to Megan, she even heard me say that Harper was destroying my life. It was all a lie. However, Megan was skilled at using parental anxiety as a weapon, and for a minute, it was effective. Our mother began to alter, not significantly, but enough for me to notice. The silent doubt, the distrust, the remoteness. 6 months ago, I would have been devastated. However, it is no longer the case, because I was watering something completely different while Megan was busy sowing her tiny poison seeds. Proof. Everything was saved by me. She asked me to monitor Harper in every communication she ever sent. She stated in every communication that it was my obligation to learn. Every urgent dental visit, each fictitious errand. I had screenshots of the Sugar High Jungle Gym day that she insisted never occurred, and each time she said, "You're not doing anything important anyway." She asked me to keep Harper overnight in voicemails. Megan could try it, and I gave it to my mother when the moment came, when the tension in the home increased, and she eventually gave me a worried rather than a loving gaze. Just evidence, no words, no justification. She read it all. She spent more than an hour looking through the folder while sitting quietly on the couch. I saw her face go from bewildered to horrified to furious, at Megan, not at me. My mother convened a family meeting that evening. No soft leading, no warning. "We need to discuss," she remarked as she entered the kitchen. As if she owned the place, Megan walked right in, most likely thinking that this was her winning lap. However, our mother turned to face her and finally said what I had been waiting for. She warned Megan that she would report the genuine neglect to Child Protective Services and that it would not be my fault if she ever left Harper with me again without my express consent. She informed her that she had witnessed everything, that she was embarrassed by Megan's attempt to distort the facts, and that she was done complying. Megan stopped. Then she blew up, as was to be expected. She let out a scream. She sobbed. She yelled that we were banding together against her, that we had no sympathy for her, and that we didn't realize how difficult it was, holding Harper like a human shield and claiming that no one else loved this child enough to make a sacrifice. She attempted to pull Harper into the discussion. She looked to our father for support, but he remained silent and simply stood with his arms crossed. She accused our mother of being a traitor, of choosing me above her, and of creating a poisonous atmosphere throughout the family. Then she threatened. One last time. She was leaving. She was not stopped by our mother. I didn't either. Megan yelled something about staying at Danny's place until someone around here matured and apologized, and she walked off, dragging Harper with her. She slammed the door so forcefully that the hallway picture frame shook, uncertain whether I was experiencing relief, despair, or simply the after effects of witnessing the mayhem finally reach its zenith. I stood there with my pulse pounding. 2 days went by. She didn't give a call. She never returned. Not even one of her typical guilt trip texts was sent. I assumed she thought we would be the first to get in touch, to implore her to come back, and to ask for forgiveness and understanding. She believed that Harper's departure would be felt deeply, that we would mourn the innocence and laughter, and that we would want it back desperately. However, the house was serene, quiet, and calm. The truth dawned on me the 3rd morning as I entered the kitchen and saw my parents sipping coffee as if nothing had occurred. She assumed we would plead with her to return. We didn't. 3 months have passed since Megan made one of her many dramatic exits from the house, taking Harper along with her like a prop. She thought we would follow her, as if she were the family's glue. She expected my mom to fold, to apologize, and to plead with her to return. However, that never took place. Instead, she experienced the silence she had never expected. The hush that resounds louder than a door smash ever could. "We're done." And the silence remained. Megan never came back. Not to family dinners, not to our home, and not even to start a quarrel. Nobody even knew where she had disappeared to. For a while, however, it wasn't long before some words began to surface. She had not yet taken up residence on her own. She was unable to pay for it, not with no money whatsoever, and a part-time job at a boutique. She ultimately ended up living with her intermittent ex-boyfriend Tyler, who had twice cheated on her, been expelled from community college, and had attempted to launch a DJ company out of his mother's garage. Megan picked him over us, but he's not exactly a prize. In other words, she preferred not being told no to accepting responsibility. They haven't even formally reconciled. I've heard that it's more of a convenient cohabitation. He wanted someone to divide the utilities, and she needed a couch. Isn't it romantic? At home, on the other hand, the energy radically changed. It felt lighter in the house. My mother became more forthcoming. There were fewer disagreements and fewer delicate situations to avoid. She looked me in the eye over coffee one afternoon and apologized for not trusting me sooner and for allowing Megan to control the situation, for entrusting me with obligations that never belonged to me. She warned me that she wouldn't remain silent or uninvolved if something similar occurred again. She would support me if she decided on justice. And what do you know? I trusted her. I had been convinced for a long time that I needed to play peacekeeper. It was anticipated that the unseen middle child would nod and take in Megan's pandemonium like a sponge. However, it is no longer who I am. I've been saving money, working part-time at a bookstore, and getting ready for college over the past 3 months. Because I want room, I decided to live in a dorm rather than at home, even if it costs more. My personal area. Instead of living in the void created by Megan's dominance, I want to create my own life. No more guilt trips in the morning, no more texts about last-minute nail appointments, no more whispered charges of emotional neglect, no more babysitting, no more unexpected notes stuck to the door. Harper is the only person Megan has attempted to contact, at least not me. Harper is still only 4 years old and is attempting to understand the world. She finds it incomprehensible that I no longer visit. She doesn't understand that her mother used her as a negotiating tool and turned parenting into a weapon. She is aware that I used to play tea party with her, that I am no longer present. Yes, I occasionally FaceTime her. We discuss her plush toys. She displays her sketches to me. Even though she appears exhausted, she constantly responds that I'm okay, and that none of this is her fault when I inquire how she's doing. I'm still her aunt, so even though I won't allow Megan to use Harper to reintroduce herself into my life, I also won't penalize a child for her mother's transgressions. I still adore her. From a safe distance, I simply adore her. As for Megan, she also gained knowledge. She discovered that blaming someone else for your issues, just because you're an adult now, only works until that person learns they owe you nothing. She discovered that presenting selfishness as a lesson in life does not elevate it. Rather, it merely demonstrates your manipulative nature. She also discovered that people, including family members, may push back and occasionally leave if you push them too hard. The babysitter wasn't the only thing Megan lost. She had lost her safety net, her buffer, the person she could always count on to clean up her mess and then keep silent. In exchange, she was given a shared apartment with a man who views Spotify playlists as a legitimate job objective. And while I did gain some responsibility this summer, it wasn't the kind Megan had in mind.